Alright guys, so as you know, we've been working on Sasquatch, getting through a couple of problems that we've been dealing with, and I'm still here at the shop because I wanted to give it a couple of days to make sure everything did work out. So far, everything's looking good, but since we are going to be here a couple of days, I do want to get one more project done to Sasquatch before I take off, because I am going to be taking off for quite a while and hoping not to be coming back to the shop here for, a couple months, if not more, out exploring. So this is a project we're going to be working on today. This is the 23Zero Peregrine awning. This is a 270 awning. So you guys know that I use my awning a lot on the van, and it's just been one of the traditional pull-out types. Recently at the Patreon campout, I got to see some people's vans, the Tuttles, and they had a 270 on their van, and I got to see how it worked. And I've always kind of havered to have one of these. Wasn't sure how it would really work out on the van, so it just kind of made me leery of doing it. But once I got to see theirs and how well it worked on their van, I was definitely sold on the idea. So I'm excited to get this installed today.
Your awning comes in two packages. The first package, a long package, carries your awning, and then the second, a much smaller package, has all your hardware, including the brackets and any bolts and nuts that you may need to install the awning.
Alright guys, so first thing first, what we're going to have to do is get the old awning off the van. We also have some things like this light here that I think is going to have to be repositioned, but for right now I'm just going to take it off. Also, for time being, I'm going to take my rear light bar off as well, mainly because I want to change that. I've not liked that light bar. I already have switched the front of the van all to diode dynamics, so what I want to do is actually get rid of that big light bar off the back and just get a couple small pods eventually, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. First things first, we'll get this on. So we've got the old awning off, and I'm just kind of looking through the hardware that came with the new Peregrine awning, and it looks like to me like what they have thought of is that you are most likely going to have some kind of tube rack, and they give you a bunch of these U-bolts and some other mounting hardware, but that's not going to work for me. I built my rack out of extrusion. It's one that I designed and built myself, and so I kind of knew that going into this, that probably whatever they sent me wasn't going to work, and now I just have to do some figuring and see how I want to best add these brackets. Now these brackets are heavy duty, because this is a much bigger awning than the one I had on there. So yeah, these things are really quite stout. But yeah, I'll figure out how I'm going to mount these to my rack, and then we'll get them mounted up. Alright guys, so I've been messing around with these brackets, trying to figure out the best way to go ahead and mount the awning to my rack. Now again, like I said, I've made this rack out of aluminum extrusion, so it's pretty easy to mount things to it using the T-nuts and stuff and the slots. But I wasn't really sure because there was no manual to kind of the orientation of how these brackets are supposed to go. So I just went on YouTube and looked and seen what other people were doing. And it seems like for the most part, most are doing this way, with the bracket kind of being like that shape right there where you can see. Now I'm going to actually go this direction, mainly because that gives me a little bit more drop, and with the van being so tall, I'm hoping it'll lower the awning and make it a little bit easier for me to access and get open. So I'm using these roll-in little T-nuts here. I don't know if you can see this if the camera's focusing on them, but the roll-in ones allow you to put the T-nut into the extrusion without having to slide it in from the end, which is super handy if you've already got your extrusion together. You can get other ones that are much cheaper than these, that just roll in from that you have to actually put in before you assemble your extrusion, but these are just really nice. Plus, these are stainless steel, which I also recommend because I've used the other ones and they rust up pretty easy. So I like that. And then another thing is, just a tip when you're doing it, is whatever bolts you're using, get an assortment of different lengths, anything from probably 1/2 inch to even up to maybe 1 inch. You'll want, and varieties in between that, just because whatever you're bolting into, you can only bolt so far into the extrusion before you're going to bottom out. So you have to have just the perfect length bolt to make sure that you can get enough bite on the threads, but not so much that the bolt is sticking up because it can't go any further into the extrusion. All right, so we're gonna start preparing this awning for going up on the van, and what we're gonna do is we're going to go ahead and get all the bolts in this tree track. So you can see I've got one in here already. There's gonna be a flap on each end that you can undo, so it's just Velcro. You pull it back, that opens up the end of the T-track. You'll have a little rubber stopper here that you can pop out. So we'll pop both of those. And then you can take the hardware that they gave you and slide it right into the T-track. So this is very simple. So we're going to put all these in. Alright, I'll get these kind of half positioned so that way when I go to put this up there, they'll be pretty close to where they need to be, and then we'll go get this bolted up.
This is probably the hardest part of the job, and I recommend having a second person if you can. Holding the awning while also lining up all the bolts that slide through the brackets can be a little bit challenging on your own. I was able to get it, but again, a second person would be handy.
All right guys, so I'm just tightening up the last of these bolts. Now the bolts that came with the awning are stainless steel, which is great for corrosion resistance, but one little tip is don't tighten them real fast because they have a tendency to overheat and they'll seize. So just tighten them real slow. And once they seize, like, you just can't get them undone. All right, so she should be on. So let's open her up and see how she goes.
So in all fairness, this is actually probably the third time that I opened the awning. The first time I opened it, I realized that I had the awning too far back, which made a huge gap over the rear doors. So off camera, I went ahead and unbolted everything and slid the awning forward. Getting the awning out is very simple. Since the awning is capable of holding itself open, it's as simple as swinging the arms out and tying them off. The awning does come with some straps that you can use to tie them off, but it also came with a bunch of cordage, and I found that just using the cordage with some trucker's hitches worked for me, and I could later just fold the extra cordage up in the awning when I was putting it away.
All right guys, so I've just about got the awning all set up here, and I put out the poles that come already mounted on the awning, but they give you also just 3 extra poles, and on one end you have a peg and the other end you have a ball end. Now these are meant to be as extras or replacements, so the ball end would go in the socket where the actual poles that come mounted on the awning. So if you broke one of those poles, you could pop this right back in and have a replacement pole. But if you want to have just an extra pole, like I can put one on this one, then you flip it around and you use the peg end, and it just goes up into the hole right here, and then you can use it as another pole to be able to support your awning if it's, you know, really windy or you're dealing with a lot of snow load. All right, so I'm really happy with the way the awning is sitting on the van so far. The only thing I'm seeing is a slight problem for me is they have this little protective flap, so that way you don't get sun coming in or driving rain through this side. But for me, with the van, it hangs down just a little bit too low and interferes with my door, so I'd have to kind of keep moving it. Now that's not really a big problem for me. What I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna flip it up like that, and I have a sewing machine. I'm just gonna hem this because I can actually just slide it out of the slot. So I'm just gonna hem this up like that so it fits my van perfectly. All right guys, so I think this pretty much wraps up this video. I've got everything installed. I've got the awning out. I'm really happy with the way everything is set up. I'm really going to enjoy having some space over the back of the awning, and I'm going to have a lot more space along the side of the van, so it's just going to give me a lot more coverage. I think as I get used to using the awning, I think setup and tear down is going to be a lot faster for me, so I'm also excited about that. Anyhow guys, this is the 23Zero Peregrine. If this is something that you've been looking for your van or overland vehicle, maybe give them a check out. They had the best deal online for a freestanding 270, so it seems to be really well built, and I'm excited about it. So check out their website down in my description if you're also interested. Anyhow guys, I want to get out to the mountains, so I'm going to pack this thing up and head out of here. So if you found this video useful, give it a like. If you have any comments or questions, leave those down below, and we'll catch you guys again outside.